Chapter 15. A Happy Ending. After 3 long years abroad, I returned to England, landing in London one autumn evening. I immediately went to see Traddles, who was now working as a lawyer. He had finally married his pretty Sophie. I found him in his chambers and told the clerk that I wished to see him. "Goodness!" cried Traddles, "it's Copperfield!" and rushed into my arms. "How wonderful to see you! You have grown so famous. When did you arrive? Where have you come from? What have you been doing?" Traddles didn't give me time to answer one question before he fired off another. He proudly introduced me to the lovely Sophie, and I was delighted to see how happy they were. I spent a pleasant evening with the Traddles before spending my first night back in England at a nearby inn. The following morning I took a coach to Dover to visit my aunt. I burst into the parlour where my aunt was drinking tea. She and Mr. Dick welcomed me with open arms, and I was overjoyed to see dear old Peabody, who was now my aunt's housekeeper. My aunt and I talked long into the night. She gave me news of Mr. Peabody and Emily, and of the Micawbers. They were doing well in their new country. Mr. Peabody had become a hard-working and prosperous farmer, and Mr. Micawber was a magistrate. I asked about Mr. Wakefield and Agnes. "Is Agnes still unmarried?" I asked my aunt shyly. "Yes, she is," replied my aunt, "but only because she wishes to be. If Agnes wanted to be married, she could have done so 20 times over." I nodded my agreement. "I know," I replied, "but is she seeing anyone special now?" My aunt smiled at me and looked me in the eye. "I expect she is, Trot. She doesn't confide in me, but I expect she is." This news made up my mind for me, and the next morning I rode to Canterbury to see Agnes. Everything looked the same, and I asked the new maid to tell Miss Wakefield that a gentleman wanted to see her. Agnes came into the room, and I caught her in my arms. "Agnes, my dear girl," I cried, "I have surprised you. I am so happy to see you again." "I am very happy to see you as well, Trotwood," she cried. I held her quietly for a while, and we spoke of Emily and Dora. "Tell me about yourself, Agnes," not really wanting to know the answer. "What should I tell you?" she answered. "My father is well. You see us here, quiet in our own home. We have no problems now that we have our home back. Knowing that, dear Trotwood, you know everything." I looked at her and asked if there was anything else I should know. She told me about her school and about her life with her father. I went for a walk by myself, promising that I would return later when Mr. Wakefield was at home. On my return to the Wakefield home, I was greeted with love and delight by the old man. After dinner, Agnes played the piano. I tried to tell Agnes that I loved her, but it was impossible. I returned to Dover and stayed with my aunt while I finished my book. I had been in England for 2 months, and I was round Christmas time. I had visited Agnes regularly, but she had said nothing of a new friend, and my hopes had begun to rise. I decided to go and visit her one cold and frosty morning. Before I left, my aunt told me that she thought that Agnes was seeing a young man, and that she also thought that Agnes was to be married. "Good for her," I said cheerfully, although I felt far from cheerful. I was sad and deep in thought as I rode to Canterbury. I found Agnes alone by the fire reading a book. I sat beside her and told her that I needed to speak to her privately. She nodded encouragingly. "My dear Agnes, do you have a secret? Please let me share it." She trembled as she looked down away from my face. She then jumped up and hurried across the room, bursting into tears. "You are wrong, Trotwood," she cried. "I have no secrets from you." "Agnes," I cried as I went to her side, "I must say what is in my heart. You have always been my guide and my support. Agnes, when I loved Dora, my love would have been incomplete without your sympathy. When I lost Dora, I don't know what I would have done without your love and support. I went away, dear Agnes, loving you. I stayed away loving you. I returned home loving you. I held her in my arms. She still wept, but joyfully now. She shyly told me that she had loved me her whole life. The next day we rode to Dover to tell my aunt the good news. We found her sitting by the fire. "Goodness me," she cried, "who's this you're bringing home?" "Agnes," I replied happily. My aunt hugged and kissed us both. She was overjoyed. Peabody hugged and kissed us both, as did Mr. Dick. My aunt said that she had always hoped that I would marry Agnes, and it was me that she had meant when she said that she thought Agnes had a special friend. Unfortunately, I had been too blind to see it. We were married within a fortnight. Traddles and Sophie, Dr. and Mrs. Strong, my aunt, and Mr. Dick were the only guests at our quiet wedding. We left them still celebrating and drove away together. Dearest husband, now that I can call you that name, I have one more thing to tell you, said my darling wife. Tell me, my love, I replied, holding her tightly in my arms. The night that Dora died, she left me something, a last request. Do you know what it was? I thought I knew, but asked my wife to continue. She asked that I would look after you and become your wife, said Agnes. I had been married for 10 happy years, and Agnes and I were sitting by the fire one night when I was told that a stranger was waiting to see me. It sounded odd, and my children thought it was the beginning of a story. Let him come in here, I told the servant. I stood up with surprise when a gray-haired old man walked in. Mr. Peabody, I cried. Are you alone? Asked Agnes, looking behind him for Emily. He said that he was, and proceeded to tell us of their lives in Australia. I was happy to hear that Martha had married a young farmer, and even happier to hear that Mr. Peabody had married Mrs. Gummidge. We laughed together at the idea of Mr. Micawber being a magistrate. He had paid off all of his debts and was doing well for himself. Before Mr. Peabody returned to Australia, we went to Yarmouth to see the little engraved stone I had put in the churchyard to the memory of Ham. This was some time ago, and my story is nearly finished. I see Agnes at my side as we travel along the road of life. I see our children and our friends around us. I see my 80-year-old aunt with Peabody, my old nurse. Oh, they are playing with my youngest child. I see my good friend Traddles sitting with his wife and family around a large table, the same cheerful man as he always was. I am now at the end of my story. These faces fade away, and only one face remains shining on me like a heavenly light. I turn my head and see it in its beautiful calmness beside me. Oh, Agnes, you have always been my best friend, my comforter and my guide.